All right, I think we're live. Welcome the two or three people that have joined us early. If y'all would do me a favor, you see a chat window on your phone or on your laptop or computer. Please find that little window and comment whether or not the sound is good. Just let me know something. We had an audio problem last time and nobody told me, so it was really loud and annoying. You know, I paid about $400 for this microphone, so I'd like to be able to utilize it in the right way. Also, we had some internet connections in the last video, and I'm hoping it'll be better this time. So, looks like we only have two people online. I must have, again, picked a bad time. So, we'll do some introductions real quick. I am the owner of Section 8 Consulting, and today we're going to be talking about Section 202, supportive housing for the elderly program. In addition to the program for 202, we're also going to discuss some of the things that are going on that are very critical to everybody, including the old and the young, at the end of this month, which means there are a lot of evictions and a memorandum that will expire. And so there's a lot of terrible things at play. So we'll mix that into this conversation. Now, beyond that, it looks like the numbers are starting to change a little bit up here. But so beyond the 202 program, I want to tell you, that was a program, Section 202 was created in 1959. And it was a lot like project-based housing. That at least was the intent of it in 1959. And so it provides a capital advance to finance the construction, rehabilitation, or acquisition within to put it very simply, the government paid for a lot of people that own property to buy buildings and then subsidize it and then allow seniors to move in. And so thus it becomes Section 202 and supportive housing, especially for those of you that have disabilities. So I'm going to go down to eligibility for this. That way we can get to the meat of the situation. I know a lot of people are limited in their time. So eligibility does require you to be 62 and older for Section 202. And depending on the type of property, whether it be accepting HCV, meaning housing choice voucher, or subsidy, which means a private individual bought a building and they allocate a certain number of units and you apply directly with them. And then they receive tax credits for the next 40 years. As long as they guarantee they're going to rent those units to you. So I'm noticing a big spike there's a whole lot of evictions. There's about 40 million people up for eviction right now. I'm not suggesting that many people will be evicted at the end of the month, but I can say the numbers are pretty devastating. As an example, in the city of Miami, 1/4 of the entire population went to apply for a housing choice voucher. That number should be 0.5%. That is an extraordinary number. Now, here's the more interesting fact of that. That's playing out in every city right now. In fact, just personally with my own YouTube channel and the website, section8consulting.com, people have managed to crash my website 4 times. They've crashed my booking software about 16 different times. The company that hosted called me and said, "What is going on? Are you under attack or whatever?" I'm like, no, there is a housing crisis, and there probably count on my hand how many people are out there that will actually help you with housing and that are not an attorney, so there's not many consultants that do what I do. Beyond that, let's go back to what seniors need to know. And also for those of you that are 55 and older, we should discuss what your options are. So a lot of you have a very basic understanding that if you need housing, you're going to go out and you get it, a voucher. That's the main thing. It's Section 8, going to get a voucher. Well, Department of HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is located in Washington, D.C., is the actual HUD of Indian Affairs, by the way. By the way, those of you that have a little mixture of Indian in you, just so you know, the truest intent of HUD was actually for Indians. Okay, so if you're Native American, you actually get some priority behind that. I don't know how that managed to get lost in the mix. So that was a fun fact. We'll move on. So beyond that, HUD receives federal funds that are obviously allocated by the Congress and the Senate and others, and that money streams through them. They make it a determination as to how many cities and housing authorities will receive that. A lot of you believe that your local housing authority is HUD. It is not. Your housing authority is a building that is owned and also employed by the city or the state. And so that's a private entity that's run by the state. It is not HUD whatsoever. Now, whenever a housing authority does something in bad faith or violates federal law, which they do all the time, they get sued a lot. There are 10, 20 pages of housing authorities being sued for unethical behavior. So beyond that, let's talk about that money. So it's coming down from DC, HUD, and it's allocated to the state. The state will allocate that money down to the housing authority. The housing authority, in turn, has many different programs it's attempting to fund. Most of you are well aware of Section 811. That is a person with disabilities, and that is a funding level. So when you walk into a housing authority, as an example, there's only one voucher. What's attached to that voucher is going to be a specific type of funding. So let's give some examples. Section 811 for disabilities, Section 202 for those of you that are seniors, Section 504 for those of you that have aged out of group homes or in college, but you also have a disability. Then you have other sections like it's not even a section. It's called VAWA, which is for domestic violence victims. Or you have HOPWA, HOPWA. Persons that's for people that have HIV or AIDS. So all these different programs are strings attached to that one voucher. So when you go into the housing authority, you cannot say, "Hey, excuse me, may I apply for a 202?" No, you apply for a voucher, and if you're giving the correct answers, you meet the correct criteria, they will select you on the list to receive that funding. Now, how it gets interesting for those of you that are seniors and wanting 202, if you've got a housing authority with a low population of seniors, then that means they have a lot of funding and very few people they have to give vouchers to. In other words, you're not going to wait very long. And then if they have a general fund for just anybody that's simply low income, there's going to be an extraordinary waiting list, but yet very little funding. You see how that might work out? So when I tell you guys, when you book me for consults to help you with housing authorities and getting vouchers, it comes down to me working that system to determine which types of funding we can make you most attractive for. If you're both a senior, you're disabled, and a veteran at the same time, that means you're able to get on. You're considered for 3 different types of funding. It means your odds are greatly increased, and so is the position in which you would land in that waiting list and or lottery. All right. So with those considerations, now that you understand, there's also 132 so far that I've found over 20 years, 132 different types of funding levels. We're talking decades and decades of different types of programs. With each president, new Congress, and new rules, we stack new rules on top of other rules. And you see it's like a big cake of a lot of programs. Trust me, I know. I have to read through all that stuff. You're talking over 1 million pages over the years. So we're going to go back to 202 again. So I believe the easiest path for you, if you are 55 and older, it gets easy. When you get 62 and older, it gets exceptionally easy. The reason is instead of us approaching the housing authority directly, making our claim and trying to get preferences on their list, it's easier to approach the subsidized properties where an owner has a rich property where he gets tax credits for the next 40 years for allocating his units and applying that way, where they take your application, your information, they send it to the housing authority via email, and then they can either approve or deny that within days. Now, I'm not suggesting every subsidized property is going to have that application. They can send it directly to the housing authority. A lot of them don't operate that well. So they tell you, oh, well, we are a 202 property, but you need a housing choice voucher. So in essence, they're really not a Section 202 property. This is part of the convolution of it all, is trying to figure out the complicated spider web of things that happen with housing authorities, funding, and vouchers. Some of the other things that can be approached from that, and I've got a little bit of information here. I'm going to pull up real quick if you'll bear with me. And I think I had that prepared for you all. Just hang tight. It's hard to remember everything after all these years. It's like trying to be in a walking encyclopedia. Well, I thought I did have it, but I apparently do not have it. So, back to the 202 part. I think the best approach for most of you right now, so with consideration that we're looking at a tidal wave of people that are due for eviction at the end of the month. First of all, right now, if I had to look at all 20 years of doing this, I would say if I combined all 20 years and how difficult all that would have been combined for 20 years, I would say that right now, between January and right now, that it is 10 times harder than it was combined all 20 years. That is the devastating amount of people that are losing their homes. The number is so dramatic right now that it's so compelling. Hundreds, thousands of emails, It never stops, 12, 15 hours a day. And also the videos, have gone wild, obviously, because people need help. It's pretty extreme. So, besides that, I want to talk about a different approach you can take in order to get these vouchers, especially if you're older or younger. Okay. So let's consider this. You live in, let's say, Houston. All right. If you live in Houston, then your approach should be applying at every available housing authority in the area. We're looking for housing authorities with low populations. And especially if you know that you're a senior, then we need to put you in a county. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, well, I don't want to move. I want to stay in the same zip code forever. I've got family, I've got children and grandchildren. Look, that might have been a workable scenario before the pandemic and before evictions. But now the pressure put on housing is very extreme. As an example, over the past 20 years, we've reduced the number of housing properties and Section 8 and TBAs or tenant based housing by 97%. We've been woefully underfunded for over a decade. In other words, there was no money to start with. We put a pandemic on top of it. Then we evicted roughly 40% of 100 million people. And then we're fixing to do a second wave of this. And we simply do not have the funds. Even if we had checks to cut to everybody, there's simply no longer enough housing to even match it. Housing authorities are closed. They do not answer their phones. They do not answer their emails. And in some cases, roughly, I'd say over 30% of the time, they straight up lie to people about certain things. Now, am I saying that your housing authority is unethical and operates that way? No. But I can think of hundreds of examples on Google. And you can also get Miss Fudge that actually directs the Department of HUD. And she can tell you how many lawsuits she's been on a rampage with, hundreds. So, and I preached very widely about that. Housing authorities hiring low income, well, let's not say low income people with low morals. All right. They simply have no vested interest in caring what happens to you and whether or not you get a voucher. And that becomes a problem because if you're not going to take the job personally, then you should clock out and go home. I take it very personally because, let me tell you something. When you consult to help a senior that's fixing to lose everything she worked her 60, 70 years for, and she's going to be put on the street with nothing more than the shoes and a shirt on her back, it does not end well. When you put a mother that's pregnant and you tell her, well, we're sorry, there's no housing, there's no voucher, we'll need you to pack your shit and move into the woods. We'll call you in 6 months and we'll run an application. It's so bad. Today I was pulled into tears once again. A person sent me pictures and said, hey, these are all the animals that are going to be put down if I have to go. If I have to be put out. So I'm going to tell you, there's an emotional, devastating impact of all this. It's been draining on me, especially. I take the job very personally, and I've had 20 years to practice not letting things affect me. But I've got to tell you some of the stories, and I tell you this, guys, often in these videos. When you hear the stories and you see the result of what happens when I cannot perform correctly or get you a voucher, the consequences are very serious. So I've got to tell you, I take my responsibility very seriously because, and the reality is, if I cannot get what equates to being my grandmother a place to stay, then she's on the sidewalk. So yes, let me tell you, there's a lot of sleepless nights. Since January, I've been working 12 and 15 hours. I cannot tell you, it's a difficult job to take. And I may at some point even have to get counseling because, emotionally it wrecks you a lot. But anyways, this video is not about me. So let's go back to 202. Our approach should be to get you to talk to as many housing authorities as possible. Before you submit applications, there's nothing in federal law that's against me helping you adjust your answers. A lot of applications are set up and designed in a specific way to potentially get you almost to answer in the wrong way, which would give you a lower priority. So I do help people adjust it, okay? There's nothing illegal about that. It just means that I'm helping you better understand the questions of what you need to answer. Some of the things that you're answering on your housing choice applications at the housing authority can mean the difference between years of you waiting. And I see it repeatedly with you guys doing these applications. And what I'm seeing is around 84% of the stuff you're putting in these applications is absolutely devastating your ability to get housing. Some of you have been sitting needlessly for 8-9 years. That's ridiculous. I don't give a damn where you live. The other thing that I get a lot of you are under the impression that somehow I'm going to be sending you to project-based housing. I don't do that. If you want a crook, a fool, and a scam artist, there's plenty of them on YouTube. I do not ever set my clients up to go sit out so you can sit out there and live in project-based housing where you can talk to somebody turning tricks smoking crack and other things. Okay, I do not. That's not what I do for clients. I go after the best housing that I can get for you. So, with all that being said, how do you get Section 202? It's very simple. Well, it's not very simple. First, we start with the applications. Then we're going to hit every housing authority we can. We make sure you have the appropriate preferences in place, that you have the correct answers on that. That we also get certified tracking on a lot of these things. A lot of you guys are just verbalizing. You're also submitting documentation online, and there's absolutely no record of it. And then, much to your dismay, a year later, you find out, oh, by the way, we have no record of you. Or they do purging, which means they make one phone call, and if you don't pick up the phone, then you're purged. In other words, they kick you off the list. Let me tell you, about 30% of my cases are people that were kicked off the deal because they mailed information to the wrong address, wrong phone number. Somebody didn't pick up. So there was lots of clever ways for housing authorities to thin that list to get rid of people. I mean, in principle, you see, they have no vested interest, not like I do. They don't take it personally. They don't take it emotionally. They've gotten so far from reality that they do not sense, because they're not seeing the elderly person. They're not seeing that their 8 or 9 animals, will have to be put down. They don't see that. They don't see. I've got a family right now. They put them out because they violated one tiny rule. These people will now have to camp in the woods. We're talking about children. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of person, what kind of demon, I hate to put it that way, what's working there? How does that person sleep with herself? That's the kind of person that should be put down, to be honest with you. Now, I'm not suggesting any ill will or harm towards anybody. That's not at all what I'm suggesting. I'm just saying that if you really don't enjoy the job you have and you've lost touch of reality, then please get out of the position of handing out vouchers to people, okay? It's such an important thing for so many people. So I'm going to open it up to a few questions, and we'll see what happens, guys. I'm going to do a little pop-out window so I can better see what questions you guys are asking me. And you're welcome to ask about anything you wish. It doesn't need to be about a senior issue. It doesn't need to be about other things. It can just be about anything related to Section 8, okay? My appointment is on Tuesday. DC Big OCO. I appreciate that. So I'll be calling out a few names here and asking questions. I need Section 811. Don't we all? So we'll have to work on that for sure. Daryl May, I have a place to live. It is of the greatest concern to all. Well, Daryl, I'm glad to hear that. Johanna, housing is tight. Or is that, housing is right? Yeah, well, this market is extremely tough right now for housing because, a lot of the market's on fire. Rents are going up by 20 and 30%. Because they're handing out $25,000 to anybody that buys a home right now, is causing an inflation that's unbelievable. So there's a lot of things going on. Get a free lawyer if you can't pay for one. Do what? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying, Daryl. So yes, you can get a housing advocate if you want to. I have dealt with a lot of housing advocates that go to court for people that have cases for ADA law, so your American Disability Act of 2014, and other issues dealing with lawyers. I'm going to tell you, a lot of I know you guys don't realize this, but a lot of those guys they're still in school to be attorneys, so they go out there and try to help you, and a lot of them are really not good at what they do. I'd say that, but I've picked up cases behind housing advocates, and a lot of them, they simply are doing it because they're forced to do the job as part of becoming an attorney. And a lot of them just don't have the heart into it. And they certainly don't have my library of books. To be frank with you, I can count about 100, 200 times I've been contacted by attorneys around this country that would prefer not to have to read all the manuals I have, and then in principle hire me on the side to consult lightly for them so they can finish their job in court. In other words, even attorneys don't have time to sit there and read through every manual. So if they find that somebody else has a greater knowledge in that area, it would be easier for them to contact me. And so they do. I work with estate attorneys, divorce attorneys, all kinds of attorneys. People get put out all the time. I work with attorneys that deal with the elderly being put out of nursing homes. So, it comes down to that because, yes, they deal with the law and I deal with housing. And the housing isn't always the law. So we got Quincy Williams. What is the program that pays rent and utilities for seniors forever? Well, there's two different programs you might be talking about. So that would be there's one portion program called HUD Bash if you're a veteran. Second one's gonna be Section 811. And then on the third is the continuum of care, and it's specifically named permanent supportive housing. And that's for people that are homeless or going to be imminently homeless. How do you use your voucher for purchasing a HUD home? Okay, so I cannot, again, guys, when it comes to real estate, you have to be licensed by the state. I'm not a realtor. I have no interest in that or being a broker. In addition to being a real estate agent or a broker, to discuss that factor, you must be certified by HUD. In addition, you can't even call a normal real estate agent about that. So I cannot violate YouTube's policy and talk about things that require a license in all 50 states, since I am, in all technicality, preaching to everybody across the nation and sometimes a lot of countries. So my advice with that is, I can tell you that I purchased a HUD home at one point. There is a process. They do have HUD counselors that are for free. You can contact HUD itself. I wish I had brought the link with me. That would be my best advice with that. Now, let me tell you a few things I do know about using vouchers and purchasing home. And this is not advice. This is just things that I have read. One, Joe Biden says that if you've never bought a home before, that you will receive $25,000 against purchasing a home. Now you know why the market's red hot. If you've never purchased a home before, or you were married to somebody that purchased a home but you did not purchase it, you may use a first-time buyer's loan or FHA loan, and that loan will grant you zero down to zero interest for quite a while, depending on if you get it through Fannie Mae, Fannie Mac. In addition to that, Fannie Mae, Fannie Mac get homes from people. Let's say you got a young couple bought a $200,000 home. They thought they could pay for it, a pandemic hit. And so when they bought the home, it was $200,000. It goes back to Fannie Mae, Fannie Mac. They chop the price in half, put it on the auction block. So now you can get you can get a house half the price. If you get the house outside the county limits, you can use a USDA loan, and then you can triple stack it. USDA housing loan outside the metropolitan area. And then on top of that, you can use Biden's plan for $25,000. And on top of that, you can use I'm trying to remember, Mom. Hang with me, guys. What was that other one? The USD loan, I believe, is the correct one. So that's not advice. That's me making a suggestion that maybe I should look into that for yourself. Okay. So as far as using the voucher, that is a program they rolled in 2000. They eliminated most of that around the nation around, I think it was 2010. There are some housing authorities that still allow you to use. Now, you think you're using your voucher. So let me correct you in that belief. You're not using your voucher against the mortgage to buy one of these homes, okay? The correct way that would work would be you are receiving a voucher that says that you will pay 30% of your income to pay your rent. Instead of paying that 30% towards rent, it will be paid towards that purchase of that home, okay? So you're not using the voucher. You're using in principle the 30%. Rather than going to the landlord, it would actually go to the house. So you see how that might work? Well, you're not actually paying a landlord. So your 30% going towards the house. In other words, you're really just paying rent against a house that you're on a mortgage on. So, a lot of you think that's a magic bullet. It is not. Also, those will be most of the programs that still exist for that, and you can get it on HUD.gov. Most of the programs that still exist are going to be in extremely distressed areas. So you should be prepared for extremely an interesting neighborhood, okay? So it depends on your tolerance, what you can handle. A good example of a place you could go where things are distressed but not so bad is Detroit. They've cleaned that up a lot, and things are much better there. The property values are very low, and they're getting that situation under control. Because of that, you can buy distressed properties there, and most of the neighborhood's gone. I mean, it's just a few houses here and there. It's not all of Detroit, but it's a good buy-in for 40, 50 grand. So that might be a good deal if you want to do that. I see nothing wrong with it. To be frank with you, if they would sell a house big enough, I would move to Detroit, Why the hell not? You can live in a neighborhood where every other house has been knocked down. You're the only house in that neighborhood. Why not? What's my risk? A bullet hole through the windshield? I think that people have fixated too much on racism, and they believe too much of the news, and so they believe that everything's gangs and shootings. Yes, things are prevalent everywhere in this country. You can get shot anywhere. It doesn't require you to live in Detroit, okay? So you have to rethink the way that you're thinking and listening to the news. If it's not published by HUD, then it's probably not that real. So, anyways, if you want to do that, you should talk with a HUD certified consultant or a section. Not a Section 8, a HUD 203K consultant, which is a guy that deals with the building aspect of housing. Okay, I deal with Section 8 housing and the application of working with vouchers and getting them for you, and so that's my end of the deal. It doesn't require federal certification. Let's take a look at some of these questions here. Hey, T-Bone, glad to have you back, man. Let's see what you got. Once you get your voucher, can you port? Once you get your voucher, guys, you need to wait 12 months. You need to successfully complete your lease for 12 months. You need to be problem-free and make sure that you lay low. Don't bother the landlord. Make sure you're in good graces, paying on time. If you do all those things, then we can talk to a housing specialist at your housing authority. And then you have what they call either their building or their porting people. And so you can import anywhere around the nation, basically. And since I talked to a lady in Hawaii today, she wants to go to Virginia. I talked to the lady. She's in another area, and she wanted to go to Hawaii. So it's interesting. People are coming and going all over. That process between one specialist in one city and housing authority to another city and housing authority takes around 45 days. It's bureaucratic. It's slow. It's email. It's whenever each housing authority feels like checking their email and responding. And then are the two housing authorities going to cooperate? And so let me explain this billing process between this. Some of the things you don't understand about that is, let's say you live in Honolulu, okay? The rent's extraordinary, just like California. So your voucher's worth a lot of money. And so that's a very powerful voucher to have, because if you go down to a little town in Mississippi, then that housing authority is going to love your voucher. They're going to want all that good cash off that voucher. So they would easily absorb the voucher, which means they're not going to make you apply. You simply take that physical or digital voucher with you. Okay, we'll take that. And then the other version of the deal is that little town in Mississippi says, hey, you know what? You've got a really good voucher, lots of cash on it. We'd love to have you down here, but we're not going to take your voucher. You'll have to terminate, give notice of termination to your housing authority in your city. And then since we already know you qualify, we're going to do a quick qualifier for you in our city. If we don't see any problem with your current application, you meet the AMI, area minimum income, for our city, then we'll go ahead and process you. There will be no waiting list. That's the thing. So when you're porting, you can absorb, or they can simply bill. All right. So hopefully that kind of brought a little light to it. I definitely didn't make the video designed to really teach y'all too much about that. But yeah, you need to talk with housing specialists for each housing authority. It's about a 45-day process, and you can get through it. Okay. So we got, I'm going to answer a few more questions here. October Dawn. Does Section 8, quote unquote, HUD consider age 55 or 62 to be a senior citizen? Well, I should make that distinction for you guys. By federal standards, 62. But in order to get into housing for seniors, you can be 55. So there's two distinctions. I would argue that as long as you're 55 and plus, you can get into any property except for ones that are exclusively 62. The federal definition of elderly or old would be 62, but that's not applicable because the way the programs are designed and subsidies, 55 is sufficient. That's why I tell you guys, the minute you turn 55, you blow your candle out, your next phone call should be a consult with me so we can get you in there. It gets immensely easier to deal with vouchers because of your age and other problems you're likely to have at 55 and greater than it is when you're younger. That's why I tell people this goes a lot better for older people than it usually does for younger. T-Bone says, thanks. Yeah, no problem, partner. October Dawn, there's a lot here that is 62 and over only. You would think with all the 62 plus property, the purpose behind that, and I can tell you why. I deal with a lot of landlords. I have a lot of landlords I deal with, and I run applications for them. For some of them, I'm district managers or I'm a regional manager for them. It means I process all their applications. I've got properties that are anywhere from 50 to hundreds. And so the thinking behind them doing a lot of 62s is simply this. One, they know that 62-year-old people are not going to be turning tricks, doing drugs, and they're not gang members. The second thing they know about 62 and older is they've got a voucher, and old people don't move. Look, when you guys move somewhere, you'll typically stay till you go. That's another benefit to landlords, and they know that. The third thing they look at, and the reason properties are 62 and older, is because most people over 62 receive a Social Security check or a Social Security disability check. So what does that mean? You're almost damn near guaranteed that client's always going to be able to pay rent no matter what. They don't need a job because they've got a government check. They've got two government checks. One check says that they can get a voucher. The other check says they get cash. It's Now you see why people over 62 are so attractive and why so many properties are for that age. And I can tell you, a lot of landlords like that. Like I said, I don't know many 62-year-old women out there on 3rd Street shaking a leg. So sorry for the humor, guys, but I just wanted to be clear about that. Okay, so why are most apartments not accepting Section 8? Well, that comes down to a history, and you can thank the news. You can thank the news exclusively, all kinds, both political sides. They've glamorized the idea that everybody that exceeds a Section 8 voucher is nothing but trash, that they're drug addicts, that they don't have jobs, they're leeches, they're roaches, they're snakes, they suck on the system. All of that stuff was played out through the 80s and 90s. And what we don't really know, what we're seeing play out is very interesting. So you're asking why? That's part of it. A lot of it has to do with prejudice, racism, bigotry. So let's be honest with ourselves. Let's call it for what it really is. That's exactly what it is. And so you have people working there that aren't screened. They're screened for good employees, but not screened for being a racist, darling. No, of course. They're able to inject their personal thoughts into the matter and issue vouchers based on some rules that are against federal policy. But unless you can prove it, it becomes difficult. So I just want to be honest and upfront. That is very prevalent, especially in the South. Now, beyond that, I don't want to make this a conspiracy video, all right? But I just want to be very clear about that. If you're going to hear it, then you might as well hear the truth. So beyond that, I believe we're talking about 62 and better. Let me see what that other question is real quick. Why are most apartments not in Section 8? Now, another reason that we have a problem with Section 8 being an issue is simply this. There are additional federal protections for people with Section 8 vouchers. And so it's exceptionally hard to evict somebody that has a Section 8 voucher. And of course, there's that old theory from, again, news that people go in and tear everything up. You know, looking at thousands of units and dealing with tenants moving in and out from my landlords, I can tell you one thing. The people that trash homes and properties are not African American. I'll tell you who they are. They're young people, okay? So let's be real about that. It's not a specific color. It's every color in the coloring book that does it. It's young folks with a lot of kids. They tear shit up. And actually, they're not the worst ones. The biggest offenders I see out of all my properties in every state, there's one trend that sets above all of them. It's called drug users. Once they get addicted and start with the meth and the crack and other things, and they discover they can't pay rent, and then you threaten them to put them out, they systematically will absolutely freaking destroy a property. Okay, so I would say that they're probably the problem is ordinary people see that and they're only focusing on that. I have to actually educate a lot of my landlords to accept Section 8. So, but there has been a role reversal with all of this. So we did learn through a pandemic that when a pandemic hits, the people lose their jobs that can no longer pay. So that created a new situation. Now we have landlords that are scared to rent to people that have a job because they don't even know if they're going to be able to keep the job through the pandemic, right? So now I'm seeing more landlords saying, hey, look, you know what? I got a buddy of mine owns a building down the street. He had all Section 8. He's sitting pretty. I'm about to go bankrupt because all the people in my complex didn't have a voucher. They all lost their jobs and haven't paid for a year. So having a Section 8 voucher or housing choice voucher is actually a very attractive thing right now. And for those of you that are veterans under the VASH, VASH program, you're also a very attractive client because you receive higher subsidy or lower payments against your rent because you served our nation. So it depends also the type of funding that you're receiving. So there's many, many different things at play when it comes to this. Let's take a few more questions. You said you'd be there at 7:30 p.m. Well, you know, sometimes my videos start early, sometimes late. The thing about it is, I'm kind of like a wild rabbit. I tend to like to do things when I want to do them, and I try to schedule things and do it at a certain time. But most people that have been around my channel have learned one thing about me. I'm extraordinarily honest. I'm upfront. I use in some videos a great deal of profanity to express my emotions, and I tend to do things the way that I want. I don't do hair, lipstick, and makeup and all that stuff that a lot of these actors do. And I'm not suggesting I would do that, but you see my point, where everything's choreographed for a video, so you look like a real estate agent talking. You're more like a Barbie doll. I like to be original, and that affords me the opportunity to make videos when I feel like I'm in the most pristine mood to make one. So that's the honest truth. I make things and do things when I want to do it. That's the fantastic thing about being an older adult. You can do what the hell you want to do and do it when you want to do it. So that's the reason why. But look, guys, if you really want to get an idea of when I make these videos, I make them every other day, and I typically make them between 5 and 7. Okay. And by the way, that was not the last part of what I said was not designed to be rude or condescending to anybody. I was trying to be, I guess, a little bit humorous about it. So we'll take a few more questions. Terry Newman, I live in a high rise based on your income up north. I wanted to move to Orlando. Most of my family lives there. Could I do this and yet get your help later? I am about 70. Well, yeah, so we would need to do portability for you. We would need to get an RTA packet. We would need to talk to two different specialists and get that set up. Your age is, you're at a good age for these things. So you would already have, in principle, good preferences to be able to port across the nation. We would need to make sure that you have a stable system of people wherever you move. So family and friends. And then, of course, there would need to be some things in place because there's always going to be a few weeks. Now, remember, when you leave from one state to another, the housing authority of where you're going is not going to automatically go, hey, by the way, here's a key to a doorknob. You still have to search. So we have to make sure that you're financially sound. We also have to make sure that you have a support system. If you're on Medicare, Medicaid, medications, and all those things, you need to be absolutely prepared. So I'm telling you things you already know, obviously. You live life longer than me, but I just wanted to make you aware that there's a lot of planning that goes into that. But yes, I think from my aspect of that, we could probably resolve that whole aspect within 1 or 2 consults if need be. A lot of it's educational, where I just kind of teach you what needs to happen, and then I work with both of the housing authorities to ensure there's a pretty good transition from one place to another. So I think that's the situation there. We're going to take another question from DC Big. There are brand new apartment buildings in Washington, D.C. They're accepting Section 8. One leasing agent told me if you can get one, he'll put me in the place in a month. Oh, absolutely. They're dying. Let me tell you something. When these builders build a building, the number one goal of a builder, and I can tell you this because a lot of landlords that hire me, they just built their building. They want to meet occupancy quick. So if you've got a HUD voucher, they're ready to go. Now, I think that's fantastic. They want to get you in. DC is I wouldn't rank it on a scale of 100 as being the toughest. I'd say they're about midline. It's a tough city to get housing. So I think that's fantastic. I hope that you do get that voucher because that's a great opportunity. It's a new building, and it sounds like you're going to live a better life, and that's the most important thing, guys. That not only are you getting housing, but you're treated equitably. A lot of you guys are settling, and you're letting the housing authority trick you, fool you in, or push you into project-based housing. I don't care if you spent 20 years in prison for bank robbery. If you walked away from that, you're recovered. You're no longer, you paid your debt to society. You've learned to be better. Maybe you're going to church or whatever it is. I have faith in people. People do change. So what I'm saying is to all of you, nobody really deserves to be in project housing unless your intent is to be a bad person and you want to continue to do gang activities, drugs, or whatever it may be. All right. I have a lot of faith in people that can recover and change their lives. I see it every day. So if you're struggling right now and you're in project-based housing and you're scared to go out at night, you're scared to walk around your neighborhood, let's work on getting you the hell out of there. Either get you to a different place to live, get you to a different county or a different state where life can get better. It matters. Nobody deserves to be treated like trash. I take that so personally because it matters to me what happens to people. So with that being said, I think that's a fantastic opportunity, DC. I would like very much to hear about what comes about of that, and I hope they give it to you. I'd also like to find out from you whether or not that's going to be what they call a tenant-based housing for you, or if they're actually going to issue an HCB voucher. Now, I'm going to move on to one more question here, and I'm going to take a sip of coffee. My throat's a little sore. You can imagine I'm on the phone, and some of these consults I do are an hour long. Some of them are 40. Some days I do hour long, 40 minutes, then another 40. It's like being a Pizza Hut guy at the Pizza Hut answer phones all day, except I actually have to talk for an hour straight, and it's hard. Oh, by the way, if y'all didn't know, I love cats. I got 21 of them. I do rescue them. I enjoy my cats immensely. And just like y'all, I will do anything. I take great pride. I take great great pride and honor and helping those cats. You can imagine how much I would care about you as a human. So, all right, so let's get on to this. M.O. Smith told my friend that about your past age six, let's see, you've had 63 surgeries and also are considered disabled. Well, I would say you have a hell of a case. So disability in principle does count as one of the factors that would assist you with ranking higher on the list and giving you priority. Now, the sheer number of surgeries is obviously what it is, but it sounds like you would need Section 811 with wraparound services and possibly assisted living, where they would allocate a person to come over and take care of some of the daily duties around your home. Okay, so that's a different process that can be done through Medicaid, Medicare. Miss Smith, what's my email? So, guys, let me put some information in now. And again, if y'all can see the chat window, most of you are trying to chat with me. I'm going to put an email and I'm going to put in booking software for those of you that are interested. I'm not here to sell services. This is only if you believe you can't do it yourself. Okay. You can find my email on my web address. I'm not going to publish my email directly in this window. It allows too many people that pilch on YouTube to scan through these chat windows, and I don't want that. So you'll have to pull it from my website. And so there's both. That allows you to see the website on section8consulting.com, and then also the booking software, which you can book me if you feel that you're at imminent risk of losing everything at the end of the month when they evict everybody. So with that being said, you can also find my email there. Okay, guys. So, guys, I'm going to look, if y'all have any more questions, you're welcome to do so. We'll move back to talking about a little bit more about Section 8 in the 202 program for people that are seniors, that are elderly. And then I think we're going to close out the video because I'm pretty tired today. And unless y'all really have questions, I don't feel like I need to press it on for an hour and a half. So besides the subsidy and besides a housing choice voucher and approaching many different housing authorities, those of you that have cases where you're disabled mentally, we can deal with Health and Human Services. They have a direct access to the housing authority and in principle can make a request on your behalf if certain criteria are met. And if such, and you do meet that criteria, then they do have the ability to grant a voucher, which is called special use. There are many kinds. Put it to you like this: they're like special vouchers. There's a lot of them. Like when you have a federal witness that needs to be protected, but yet they're low income, what do you think they get? They get a voucher. They can get these vouchers even when the list is closed. I'm not suggesting that I have a red hot line like the president to get you that type of voucher. I do know in principle what things must play out to get one, but ultimately it's still the decision of the people that administer the program to do so. And also, if you have a big housing authority, it's usually going to be its board of supervisors. It looks like we got another question here from Chandra Scorpio. The memorandum topic, when it ends, if they still do start calling names from the waiting list. Let's see if I've got that right. Okay, so that seems like it's two questions built into one. I'm not quite sure. Let's just address the memorandum part. So as it stands now, it will end at the end of the month, and then we have 40 billion people up for eviction. As an example, they did a sample testing of 17 counties, 17 of 10,000, and in that 17 counties, 50,000 were up for eviction. You multiply that number, it puts us at around 22 to 40 million that will be up for eviction within a week of this memorandum ending. At that point, I expect my website will likely go down for hours, if not days. It's already going down 3 times because there's not a lot of me out there helping people. So it's the way it goes. I can only hope, but we're only seeing the tip of what's fixing to play out all the way to Christmas. I had a lady send me a picture today. Let me tell you a story, guys. I had a lady send me a picture, and it was her pets. And she said, if we don't fix the situation in my housing, I'm not only going to lose everything, but I've worked a lifetime for. I'm going to lose all these pets. They're all going to be put down, and so you can imagine the devastation. I got to tell you, man. People tell me things like that every day on this phone since January. It is devastating. You have no idea. Let me tell you something. You have no fucking idea what it's like for me at night thinking about these things. It is so personal. The emotional impact is just extreme. I thought I was prepared after 20 years to hear these things. And then you got dads with children, and there's nowhere for them to go. And so I'm working, 2, 3 in the morning, getting up at 5, trying to save people. But there's just too many. Too many. It's not about money. So, all right, let's get back to the questions because it's a little too hard to deal with right now. So, what is Section 42? You know what? Nobody's asked me that in a while. I have to actually look it up because there's so many sections. And here I am saying I know it all. You said 42. I believe that is a construction or allocation program. Let's see, maybe a different state. Well, that's a program actually local in my own state. Now, how I did not know about this, I don't know. But Texas Section 42 is based on, let's see, typical. Well, is that correct? So we know it's a tax credit. Section 42 is a house program versus section of internal. That's for tax code. No wonder I don't know about that. So it has more to do with tax credits and how you're filing your taxes. And it appears to be the tax credits to investors who build affordable housing. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. But like I said, it's been a long day, to be honest with you. So guys, we'll take a look and see if there's any other new questions here. Can you qualify as a first-time home buyer as a senior? Well, oh yeah, as long as you're human. As long as you're human and you've not owned a home in the last 3 years, you haven't purchased a home in the last 3 years, there's no reason why you could not do that. In fact, I find that my seniors are more eager to be homeowners than anybody. I think now that we have the $25,000 to help you from Biden, okay, or the presidency or whatever it may be, it doesn't matter your political affiliation. Let's just worry about that they're going to give you 25 grand to buy a home. You're not going to see that kind of thing again a long time, not in this lifetime. You better take advantage of it. So you can use that. You can be a first-time buyer. You can buy the home outside the county limits that utilize the USDA loan as well on top of that, along with the lowest interest rates we've ever seen in a lifetime. Yeah, I think it is. But the thing about it is, guys, I am not certified to do that. In addition to certification by HUD, you must be a licensed real estate agent. And for me to speak to you guys in every state across the country, I would need to be licensed in every state. So again, I'm only telling you what I've seen. This is not advice, okay? Just to be clear that I like to remain ethical in the things that I give people. So anyways, Alvin Mazur, I don't even think I said that right, is a MRVP Voucher Mobile. I would have to check into that because I don't recognize the acronym that you're using for that. I suspect that is either a city-state program, but I do not recognize that as a federal program. So, like, for instance, in the city of New York, they have over 63 different programs, and cities do a great job of giving you acronym names. So it's actually, at its core, a housing choice voucher, but they'll rename it under some other county program. And I think part of the reason to do that is because it makes it difficult for people to figure out all these other neat programs they have, or just doing a terrible job of PR. So I'd have to look into that for you. I apologize. But, trying to keep track of 5,400 cities is difficult. In addition to all the programs, you would have to be a genius almost. Ms. Scorpio Astrologer, is there going to be a mortgage assistance from the COVID-19? They said they're all done with renters and mortgage holders are next. So that's going to be another infrastructure plan in the American Jobs Act. Now, I made a video about that. I'd have to take a look and see at the legislation. They're still building it out. They're still arguing across party lines about that. So we'll have to see what comes to fruition. But I figured this is going to be a Christmas gift for Elio. So we should know something November. I would estimate October, November, December. You know how that works politically, right? They like to deliver these things as a Christmas gift. For most of you guys don't realize that stimulus checks were timed out for a particular reason. There's a very particular reason why those checks landed that way. I've watched with all the humor in the world while people were waiting and clamoring all over YouTube and making videos about it. There's always a reason why they time it, and it's always political, okay? It's called an agenda. And when this agenda is being displayed, There are particular times when they want to give higher ratings. It's sad, but it's true. But anyways, that's my thought on it. Again, I might be speculating. I could be a madman behind the camera. You never know, man. 200 videos later, 20 years later, 6 years later on YouTube, you never know. Everything I could be saying could just be a hot air. But I think I've got a pretty good proven reputation. So, guys, look, this is already a long video. I think we capped ourselves out at about 35 viewers at one time. I'm satisfied with that. I never expected this channel to be a million views or a million people. I'm always satisfied that I can reach even one person. As I posted in one of my sections in my channel, I said in there, you may not be able to change the world, but if you can change somebody's world, then you've done plenty. Okay, so that's the whole point. This is about helping people get what they need. And home, and as a human, we lost all the hair on our body, so we have to have housing. We're not a cat. We don't grow our clothes on us. People need homes. Okay, when you get old and you don't have a lot of money and you're on a fixed income, Section 8 and housing vouchers are a necessity. You spent your life working for that. You should never be ashamed of utilizing the system. What you should be ashamed of is why the young are putting you in project-based housing, okay? Why the people that are in charge of you and your housing are doing you so badly. That's what you should be ashamed of. You should never be ashamed to go out there to have a home. What is the other option? Have a lot of pride and live on the sidewalk? Now, how fucking stupid is that? So, there I go with the profanities, but it's true. Give yourself more credit. You worked all your life for what you have. At some point, when you spend all your time paying 20% of your money into a system, at what point does that slot machine, at what point is it going to pay out back to you? Are you just so keep pumping money into it? It gives nothing back. So don't ever be ashamed of that. You deserve better. Okay. What do you think they did before they even had Section 8 housing? So beyond that, I got one more question here. How does HUD New Construction program work? Jacqueline, that technically would be about a 2-hour conversation. I would love to have, but see, now we're getting deeply into the housing market stuff. There are a lot of gurus in housing. I'm happy to talk to you about that on the side, but I think what you're looking for is a 203 consultant, and that works with construction. So I suspect you're a landlord. Anytime you want advice about HUD and its regulation on aspects of building, or the tax credit or code for the building of a subsidized property, that would be a 203 HUD consultant. I am a Section 8 consultant. I'm on the other end of the spectrum. What I do is attach people to vouchers rather than the property or the process of building it. Okay. So I know that there's some differentiation there. So if you want a solid building plan where you have an architect and you're trying to make sure you have right square footage, proper amenities, that you're following federal law, that you're following city code and all that, that is definitely a 203K consultant. And I mustn't step on their toes. Guys, I've enjoyed talking with you tonight. Hopefully you pulled some small piece of information out of this. If you're sitting on the fence right now about what you're going to do at the end of the month, or you're about to be put out, my advice to you is to seek help. It's okay occasionally to ask for help, whether it's free or you have to pay for it. There is nothing fun about being on the street. Once you lose your home, everything in the home also is lost. If you manage to pay the money to keep everything in storage, that bill becomes monumental, and it'll ultimately be the reason why you fail altogether. I've watched these scenarios play out over decades. Okay, so you have to ask for help, and you should. I'm not suggesting you ask for me to help you, but you need to ask for help, because once you reach the street, it is a long and miserable ride to get back up off of that. It's extremely hard to get off the street. Then you're going to be devastated by the lack of empathy you're going to find. Humans can be terrible. When you get to the bottom of the bottom and you deal with people that are down there and the people in charge of you, the people who are supposed to care, you're going to find a different element of people that you never thought existed. They're the most miserable fucking people you'll ever know. And part of them work at housing authorities. These are the type of people that do not care. You're a number to them. It doesn't matter that you've lost everything. It doesn't matter that your children are in a ditch. It doesn't matter that you've had 20 animals put down. These are ultimately, a lot of times, the people in charge of you. Those of you that will be shoved in homeless shelters, okay? You live in there, and you have these people that are in charge of you. You are a bed ticket number. You are a means of money for them. The longer you stay, they run on things like county jails. I know that because at one point I was homeless a long time ago. Make no mistake, you get in that shelter, and that counselor, she's been out of college for 3 days. She knows how to fill your name out. Let me tell you, I've never met a counselor at a homeless shelter that ever successfully got anybody anything. Now, I'm not suggesting these children that are being counselors at homeless shelters are bad. I'm just saying they don't know what I know. They don't know shit. They know how to fill an application. Look, if you turn the application around, you could fill it out too. I would qualify to be them. So look, you do not want to reach the bottom. If you reach the bottom, it is a long ride up. And I'm telling you, that is a dangerous game to play. And those of you that struggle with drinking and alcoholism, you're really going to challenge yourself with that, because you put yourself in a situation where you say, fuck it, you don't care anymore, then it gets really, really bad. And I'm most concerned about you guys. The elderly are vulnerable. They're already sick. They already have problems. You're in shelters. You're in the woods. You're sleeping in the car and this other stuff. You know, there's a high likelihood that a lot of you would consider not wanting to live anymore. I know that because I've had conversations repeatedly every week since January with people that ultimately told me if I was unable to get them housing, that this would likely be their last breath. Now you understand what I go through every day on that phone. I never know whether somebody's going to get on there for 40 minutes and absolutely wreck me emotionally, you know, or they're going to be pleasant, or they're going to have an attitude. I deal with so much. So you can imagine when one minute I've got somebody that, you know, they've got an attitude. The next one may want to end their life. It's a lot. I've got people with their children in the woods. I mean, it's hard, man. It's so super hard. Nobody says to their mom, oh, mommy, I want to grow up and be a Section 8 consultant. If you had any, and then a lot of you guys think I make a living doing this. I do not. That would be the most stupid business plan ever. Let's go out and make a business where I have to earn money off of people that have no money. That would just be the most stupidest business plan that ever was designed. I might as well go out and just join the nut farm for doing that. But no, I do the stuff because I care. I charge a fee because it takes up so much of my time. I think that's more than reasonable, considering that I've had to read millions of pages of content, data, operation manual, all that. So anyways, I'm not complaining. It's not a complaining spirit. I'm just saying days are hard. The rings in my eyes are clear. Go back, guys. Go back about 6 months, see my videos. I was 40 pounds lighter, and there were no rings in their eyes. This is what happens when you work from January to March, 6 days a week. I get up at 5 a.m. and I work on the phone and on email, sometime 8, 10 o'clock at night. I get 5 hours sleep. This is what happens. This is what happens when you care. When you don't care, what you get is a polished lawyer. All his nails are painted, and he only works 6 hours a day. That's what you get. Do you think he gives a shit what happens to you? Do you think he cares that the housing authority is discriminating? No. What he cares about is how much money he's going to get. I'm not an attorney. I don't make $400 an hour. I do this stuff because I can help people, and I learned a long time ago I'm highly effective at what I do. So it's your choice who you want to deal with. Do you want somebody that cares that's actually going to be honest with you, or do you want to deal with somebody that's going to wear $400 wingtip shoes and talk shit? Because that's what it is. All right, guys. See, you know, I tried so hard in this video not to use profanity, but every single time I get myself wound up tight because it makes me so upset that this could be so simple. Why not just give people vouchers based on need, based on the fact that you're a senior and you pay taxes and you're qualified to do so? Why do we need to make it so convoluted? I shouldn't exist. This channel shouldn't exist. That website I shouldn't exist. The fact that we have to beg to be a human being and ask for a roof over our heads is the most ridiculous concept I've ever seen. You know, even third world countries give people housing. Over here, it's a complicated game. It's a sophisticated game of fraud, lies, and bullshit is what it is. So much so that I have to sit here just to keep up with it. Then we're going to mix in our history in this country of bigotry and racism, which really convolutes it, and then I have to battle that. So you imagine every day is just a real shit pie trying to figure out what to do and how to get you guys into safe housing and how to be treated with respect. You know, you're an American. Why not be treated with respect? Just because you don't have a lot of money does not entitle people to treat you like trash. I've got to tell you people, man, you're letting too many people, you're not in servitude to anybody. Don't ever let people believe that. Don't ever believe it yourself. Just because you have to accept food stamps for once in your life, or you have to accept the voucher. you should never believe that you're less than somebody else, like a piece of trash, and thus they treat you that way. If people at the housing authority are doing that, then you either do something for yourself through HUD or you contact me, and I guarantee you, the next time that employee at that housing authority does it, it'll be their ass in flip flops in front of their own housing authority, begging for food stamps and a place to stay. I cannot stand people like that. It is the most horrific, it's the most horrendous type of person. You know, it's like having a demon in a church singing to you. So, anyways, that being said, very true. Yeah, I appreciate this channel very much. Thank you, Miss Ruth. Mo Smith, yes, beg and have decent housing living conditions. Oh, yeah, you're right, man. I've got elderly women, man. They got mold coming out the ceiling. They got sheetrock missing. People walk in, but I don't see any problem. Or what are they, delusional? While they're sitting in their mansion, you know? So what do you do? How do you actually click off the light switch in your brain that says, I don't care about anybody that I'm going to give a voucher to? I think they're all just dogs, and I'm just going to print out vouchers like they're trash. You know, this is what it's devolved down to at some points. And it's sickening that I see it. But anyways, guys, I don't want y'all to go into the conspiracy part of this because it's not what it is. It's bad some places and other places it operates normally. All we can do is use federal regulation, Title 24, and fight that system until we win. And as many of you know, and as I've preached on over 200 videos, if you're going to play the game, then you've got to play the game better than the people that created it. You need to be apprised of your rights, and you never ever let people talk down to you. Don't do that. You're a grown person. You know, you're just asking for housing and respect. Respect doesn't necessarily have to be earned. You earned respect the minute you were born in America. It made you an American, okay? All right, so with that being said, I'm going to check a few more comments and see that video was going from 20 minutes, 30, 40, and here we are to that hour. It always gets better towards the end. It's almost like we're sitting in the bar room talking about what it is to deal with Section 8. Some of the painstaking parts of what we deal with in order to get housing during one of the most desperate times in our nation. And so, Chandra, oh yes, last question now. Would it make a difference if was to send a certified letter? Absolutely. You guys are in to believe that you're dealing always with an honest system. If you're not keeping screenshots of everything that you're doing when you apply, if you're not sending letters certified or with tracking, so you have evidence, then the housing authority can simply purge you from the list and say, well, we never got nothing. So sorry you licked that stamp, honey buns, but it probably got blown out the window. Tough shit, you have no proof. When you don't have, let me tell you something. Let's play this in reverse. If we go to regional or we go to DC, to HUD, you know what they're going to require? Evidence. If you guys are not recording this stuff, you're not proving by virtue of tracking, if you're not taking screenshots, we have no case. You've got to record everything. When you've got housing employees coming into your apartment that are not knocking, federal law says that anytime somebody enters your home, you do not need to ask them permission to record their voice or who they are. All you're going to do is lure them in the door, then coach them into acting like an asshole. Once we get them on camera, then it's hammer time. You see what I'm saying? Once they come on your property, you do not have to ask anybody for any damn permission to record anything about them. As long as your ass is standing inside your property, if you're renting, inside your door jamb. If you own the property, then on your property. Record them. You don't need to tell them. You can put a spy cam. I don't care. All we need is enough in order to get rid of them. Get them terminated. You can take that down to any lawyer, and they'll be happy to fill your pockets with cash. And just so you're aware, discrimination suits do not pay that much. Most people only get about 20 or 40K out of that. Again, I'm not an attorney. That is not legal advice. I'm only telling you from what I've seen. So beyond that, Susan Knowles, apartment next week. Well, Susan, congratulations. I'm hoping you're telling me you're moving into an apartment. If you're actually moving out, I'm concerned. I hope it's not an eviction. Chandra, oh, you're most welcome, Chandra. I do enjoy questions, guys. I'm not as well versed as I need to be on the housing aspect. Again, you got a lot of those hopping, popping, nice suit wearing guys on YouTube that talk about real estate. Why? Because they make a lot of money. And that's the point. They buy and sell things they don't have to care about. My job, I actually have to care because I have people that are suicidal, that are disabled, that are mentally ill, some of which are unaware of anything. And so my job is a little bit different than theirs. I don't make a lot of money, and then I still have to care. When you're a real estate agent and you're just out there for the fast buck, make $1 million, then you can afford nice suits and you can go to bed without ever worrying about what happens to people. Okay. And when shit goes wrong and you're selling the property, just put the old lady and all her animals out in the front lawn. That's their job. My job's different. I'm out there to protect people. That's what I do. Mo Smith, Jake, can you help someone being harassed in the housing authority, in the housing council? Now, when I hear the word housing council, that tells me you're from a very specific state. I can only think of one state that does not have a housing authority that has a housing council. So I do think I know what you're talking about. And yes, if they have in fact violated federal regulations or Title 24, and you have an adequate amount of evidence, then we can make a claim. Now, for the lawsuit part of that, in order to get money from that situation, compensation for trouble, you will need to contact an attorney for the secondary part of that. Or you can go directly to an attorney and skip past me, because what I do is just connect you with the part of getting that stuff filed. So it's really probably in your interest to go either direction. I'm never going to suggest myself over an attorney because I'm not one. Mo Smith, the UK person's disabled in, you said UK? Okay, I don't know anything about the United Kingdom. I hope we're not talking about the United Kingdom and Europe. So I do realize people from Europe and Singapore and other places watch me. I don't know how things work in Europe. I've been thinking about looking into that because I noticed that a lot of people in Canada and Britain tend to watch my channel, and I'm wondering if they're just interested or are they with the housing council in the UK and are curious as how not to go do this very badly. So maybe they're watching to see whether or not to prevent fucking their whole housing system up in the UK by watching how you do it completely wrong in the US. I don't blame the Canadians or the British for joining the channel to find out how you could not do this completely wrong. I get that. I so get it. Anytime, hey guys, if you're from the UK or Europe and you're over a housing council, contact me anytime. I would love to tell you how you can do things ethically without having to do what we do in the US, which is so bad. So, with that being said, it seems that this person's disabled in a chair and they're 57 years old with a baby. Well, there's a lot of elements going on there again, but if you're suggesting that you're from the UK, then my advice would be probably in principle worthless for that nation. I don't know anything about the UK housing system. Well, guys, we're starting to lose viewership, which means I think we've burned to midnight oil long enough, and I've enjoyed talking with you. I hope that y'all gotten some information out of this. Again, live videos are designed as an opportunity to get to know me, what I'm about, what I do. It's not designed to be a step-by-step guide that lasts 8 minutes and gets to the point. For those of you that are impatient, you're going to hate live videos, so this is your first taste. They go on for a while. We visit all kinds of topics because people have different problems. And every video I do Q&A. So if you want to join me in another day, write down your questions and get ready and hope that I'm watching that chat window so I can help you. And I'm going to leave you one more thing. If you cannot do this the right way, or you're at risk or imminent of being homeless, or you're at risk of losing things, look, don't let your head swell so big to think you can do it by yourself. I'm not suggesting you to hire me, but really, are you really wanting to risk the chance that you're not going to get this right or get a voucher in time? And a lot of you guys are under the belief that you can get a housing choice voucher by the end of the month. You're crazy. That's not going to happen. We have to pursue different types of vouchers to protect you, your assets, your animals, your loved ones, your children, and also your old and elderly. There are other options, but if you don't start addressing these things now, guys, and if they don't extend that memorandum at the end of the month, it's going to be a terrible situation. So I love you all, and I've enjoyed talking with you, and we'll talk again in our next video. Thank you. Goodbye.